Hello everybody, the Wild Doodler here, and welcome to my very first ever drawing film. Dun dun dun! Huzzah! Okay, so first and foremost, I'm going to do a little bit of explaining. I have started up a project for myself that is quite large. However, it also involves drawing quite a lot of cats, which is definitely okay in my book. So I already have put in a few of these sketches of cats in here, and as you can see that they are quite loose, quite messy, but they are good enough for our purposes. However, they're a bit small for this piece of paper that I'm working with. So I already put this one nice and big, and I've turned down the opacity so that we can see through it a little bit easier, and it's going to work just nicely for our purposes as just some reference so that I can put in the line art. So here's my new line art layer, and gonna get my brush and turn on streamlining, because streamlining actually is quite a useful tool that the iPad has. It essentially smooths out my lines for me so that as I make a circle loop-de-loop, you can see that's quite smooth and kind of even even in all directions. And that's really awesome for line art because it helps me to make a really clean line as I'm going. Whereas if I turn it off, my line can't possibly be exactly that smooth. But this, having it turned off, is wonderful for doing sketches because it allows you to be really messy and really get a lot of emotion out of your lines. Whereas you want the really clean stuff while you're doing line art. So let's go ahead and turn up the size here. Oh, it's a little bit too big. Yeah, that looks good. All right, so now, my technique I typically go for while doing this line art is I go from thin to thick, thick to thin on my lines to represent mostly where the shadows are. So like on the bottom of his feet, I would do a very thick line, whereas on the top of his foot, it would be quite thin comparatively because that's where the light is. So this particular cat, I haven't actually sketched in his face because I was mostly just going for the body pose here. So let's go ahead and put in some of these lines. So this project that I'm working on is going to eventually turn into quite a big coloring book. I think I have somewhere between 40 and 50 sketches of these cats, and eventually one day this will be available in my shop as a massive coloring book of cats, and that will be quite crazy, to be honest. I mean, I'm just a lowly artist trying to just make my way in the world, and yet here I am actually developing something that's going to be eventually printed, and it's just been a wild ride. It's just insane. So yeah, and of course I love cats. I've had cats pretty much my whole life. And they just are such an interesting animal because they just have so much personality, and the some cats are obviously a little less friendly than others, but the cat that I had was always very sweet and kind, and I just loved her so much. But yeah, so she's a huge inspiration for why I love cats so much, and I just love to draw them. Dogs are also very interesting in the way that they move and how expressive they are, and they're just a different kind of energy than cats for sure. And of course, every breed is a little different. But yeah, who knows? Maybe if this book does particularly well, then I'll go ahead and do one of dogs as well, and that'll be kind of fun too. So there's that, and I'm really enjoying being able to just take the same animal and just draw it over and over again with all the different designs and slightly different body shapes because of the different breeds of cats that there are in the world. Yeah, so there we go. I'm going to go ahead and actually add a little bit as well to this drawing, since this is only the opening sketch. We can put in a few extra little details. as we go. There we go. So this particular cat is pretty scrunched up in all kinds of different ways. Oh, that's not right. So he's got quite an interesting pose to draw in the first place. So I like to draw cats with 3 toes, even though, you know, cats typically have more than that. But for the sake of simplicity in my cartoon style, I tend to draw them a little simpler and keep to a pattern that, especially when you're doing something like a coloring book, you want to maintain some consistency with the characters that you have and how they are created. So in this case, unless they're actually using their foot, a few of my poses, they're actually like grabbing at something or stretching and their toes are all spread out. So unless they're actually using their foot for something, I tend to keep it simple and just do the 3 toes there. And it helps keep it nice and simple, you know? So, especially on the back foot, you can really keep some simplicity going there. While it's just a little shape of just to represent what you're talking about, you know. It's something that I had to learn kind of early on, is that you want to draw super realistic, you know, and make sure that your character looks just right and it looks amazing and everyone can go, wow, that's exactly what a cat looks like. But sometimes, especially in cartoons, you gotta simplify things because the character will tell its story already, you know. It's already got a story to tell. This pose alone is unique and interesting, as far as it's not just, you know, a cat standing there. It's a cat in this crooked, awkward pretzel shape, you know. And so that keeps things interesting. And so essentially you just want to convey, you know, is there extra floof, you know, sitting out right here? Probably there would be a little bit, just to represent something like that there. And I think I'll actually thicken up that line because that's actually where all of his weight is. That's another great thing that line art is really wonderful at showing. If you put it in there, is you can show where's all the weight of the character. So, you know, his foot over here doesn't actually have all of his weight. It's actually over here because of where his head is located there. So that helps just also represent the heaviness and where it is sitting. So, you know, when I was first learning all of this stuff about line art and especially about digital painting, I wanted my stuff to all have exactly the same thickness of line. And my art teacher had to convince me that it is actually okay to have different line thicknesses, and it actually helps to make the character feel much more alive. If you just do a little bit, just kind of like what I just did there, you know, it's thin to thick to thin, you know. And it is, I had to learn how to do that and kind of unlearn my idea of what good art is, because in a lot of ways what I was looking at for reference was actually like work from Disney, and you know, the characters that they would draw had fairly consistent thicknesses of lines, but that was because it was animated and they had to really simplify what they were working with, because they were actually drawing that character 4,000 times over, just for one scene, you know. And it would drive you mad if you had to do it like this every time. All right, so this cat, I believe, is pretty much done. So now if we turn off the sketch, you can see the difference between the two styles. And so now what I'm going to do is put in his color pattern. And so for the other cats I've done, they have, my color is actually a lot thinner of a line, and I do a lot less of this wavy pattern for that. So this particular cat, I'm thinking, because the pose is so complicated, that I'm going to keep his colors actually quite simple. So he's going to be a cat with the tip of his tail, like so. Not quite like that. Let's actually make it more rounded. There we go. Tip of his tail. Let's do this foot because it's sticking out here kind of funny, and that's all right. Well, oops, not like that. So as I'm doing the fur texture, I'm breaking up my line quite a lot. When you're doing the out layer, you keep a lot of it connected, but especially on the fur, when I'm trying to represent fur, I try to do a pattern like this, then one like that, maybe another one like that, then a pattern like this. That way it just keeps it broken up and interesting looking. And then when you're far away, it looks like it's mimicking the fur, and especially also the shape of this arm. This arm is actually, you know, rounded like this. And so the more that I can represent like this line here, the more I can represent that in the hair pattern, the better, because this is going to be a coloring book. It's going to be rather simple in its shape and design, but it'll be put together like so. All right, so he, I think, is actually pretty done. I like this one. He's just very simple, very chill cat, doing his thing. All right, so let's go to the next one. So we'll turn this off and turn this guy on, which I have not yet resized this one. So let's go ahead and do that. So there we go. And make sure it's not on freeform, it's on uniform, because we don't want to squeeze this cat and make it like a bizarre elongated shape or something. All right, so I'm gonna put her there. Oh my gosh, she's so cute. Okay, so we're gonna put her there, and that's pretty centered. All right, and then also turn down the opacity so that we can see our own lines over top and create a new layer. Okay, and actually make sure I'm on that layer. Yep, okay, we're good. Turn back up my thickness. Yeah, that's maybe a little bit too much. Yeah, that's right. All right, so this gal is quite fluffy. So we're actually going to apply a lot of that fur technique I was telling you guys about, that she's going to have some of that going on quite a lot throughout her shape. So, oh my gosh, I love cat ears. They're just so unique and interesting. Oh, that's a little too pointy. There we go. And her eyes are actually one of my favorite parts about this particular piece, because she is just so sweet looking, and that little squint of her eyeball, it's just so much fun. You can tell a lot about a character by just their eyes, because they just, they really are the window to the soul, not to be cliche. But it's just, they're just so expressive and interesting, and you can tell even in a little more realistic of a cat like this one is, you can just tell, like, she's just sweet and kind. All right, so for the top of this nose, I'm actually gonna apply some of that fur there, and then again use my pen to represent the nostrils rather than actually sketching them in. So she's gonna have some of that fur texture going on, because the nose is actually connected to the face a little more than not, and I want to make sure and represent that rather than it being, you know, a sticker on top of the face. You know, I don't want that. I want it to be a little more fluid and connected to the body that it's put upon. And her tongue, which, do I like that? No, that's a little too pointy. Let's change that up a little, make it a little more round, and apply some of that thickness again. There we go, that's better. And it'll be thick up here. Not quite like that. Sometimes it takes a few tries, you know? You're just working at it, and that's okay. There you go. You want to get the one that looks right for your brain, because, you know, it takes some tries, but it's okay. And even on these circles here, I like to, again, do some of that thicker top and thinner bottom so that it feels like almost like Swiss cheese, how it's kind of it's a completely different texture and shape that's sitting there rather than the fluffy fur that is most of her makeup. Okay, and we're going to do some thickness up here for some eyelashes because that is always nice to represent. Oops, that's a little too much. Some character there. I think I like that. And down at the bottom here, we'll do some fluff. Oop, too thick. There we go. Because that's her cheek, kind of squinted. And then her iris. I love cat's eyes too. They just so expressive. There's so much potential there of you know, thick pupils and thin pupils and everything in between. And they're just so interesting. Okay. Bum, bum, bum. Oop, that's too big. That's too big. Yeah. Actually, I think that's a little bit too high now that I'm looking at it. Given that I'm giving her some direction of where the light is coming from, I want to make sure that it actually looks the same in both eyes there, because otherwise it looks a little goofy if you have light coming from different directions altogether, especially on objects like the eyeball that are really close to each other, so they don't have a different perspective on that piece of light. Okay. Oh dear. There we go. So often when I can't think of what to draw, I turn to cats because it's something that I know their shape and their basic body attitude and whatnot, and they're just such an interesting creature, and they have so many possibilities too that you can draw them doing just about anything, and it'll look right, you know. And especially in cartoons, they have so much attitude that everybody recognizes, and they're like, oh yeah, that's what a cat does, because I have a cat and that's what they do. And so yeah, I once drew a cat. I was in the play Annie, and I drew a cat that was part of Hooverville. So he was hanging out under a piece of newspaper that there was rain coming down and it's soaking right through the newspaper. But I essentially did what they did with Robin Hood with Disney, that you know, I animalized essentially the character. So I was playing a person in Hooverville, and I thought, you know, that'd be kind of fun to draw as a cat, because, you know, stray cats and all that. So I did it, and got some good laughs from my fellow actors, because they all recognize that attitude, because we're all trying to play it right now. Oops, that's a little too much. There we go. That's the shape I wanted. All right, so as you can see there, my original line was more like this. And that actually creates a bit of a tangent here, which is when this line and this line perfectly meet up, it feels like this is all one shape. And your eye wants to continue that. So in this case, I actually stretched out the foot a little so that it won't line up exactly perfectly like that, because I definitely want this to be a clear picture of what is going on. Oops, a little too thick. There we go. And as it's going under her belly there, I want to make sure to add in that shadow. A little too much. So there's that. Oh. Yeah. Nah, that's too much. That's too much. That's too much. Redo. Start over. There we go. Get some fluff in there. All right. Let's bring this on down and simplify. Again, simplify this shape. It's not like this. It's like this. especially with cats. They are a very fluid animal, and you don't want to have so many, what do you call that? Angled lines, I guess. You don't want to have gobs of those when you're working with a cat, unless it's specifically part of the style you're going for initially, which is fine if that is what you're going for. But in my case, with all of these cats, I am definitely trying to make them all feel like they're a part of the same universe. And even though there's slightly different breeds, different long hair and short hair, I want them all to feel like they all belong together. There we go. All right, and this again is where all of her weight is. So I'm going to make sure that's a nice thick line down there. Yeah. There we go. Then a bit of fluff here to represent the leg. There we go, back part of that leg and this leg. How many of you guys own cats? Go ahead and leave a comment below. What kind of cat is it? And what's its name? My cat's name was Brittany because it rhymed with Whitney. I was very imaginative when I was 8 or so, I think, when I first had her. But her nickname was Miss Boo Boo because she was a bit of a fraidy cat in the best of ways. She was just such a lovely gal. There we go. And again, in this case, she's using her foot here. So I'm going to go ahead and draw all 4 of those toes because they're just so sweet little toe beans. Nobody can stand the toe beans. There we go. Oops. That's a little bit off there. And let's put in, oh, those are all the same thickness. Hold on. Hold it. All right. I don't know if you can hear him, but Doodlebug is sighing next to me, my dog. I know. I got it wrong. Okay. Let's do some more fluff and fur for that toe. There we go. You just can't stand it when they hold out the toe beans. You know what I mean? You know. If you don't know, you're lying. Everybody knows. Those cats. They just have us wrapped around their little paws, that's for sure. All right. And again, there's the underside of the leg. Okay, that's looking nice and fluffy. I like. Yeah. All right, now it's the tail. Doo-doo-doo. One of the, again, the most expressive pieces of a cat. Can always tell what they're thinking by their tail. There were times when Boo was trying to pretend like she was asleep, and I would just talk to her. I had a high-pitched voice for her, so her name was Miss Boo Boo, and she would talk like this. And so she always recognized her voice. All of our animals on the farm have a voice. And they all know them. Because I say that to them all the time. So, yeah, I would be like, Miss Boo, what are you doing? And she would pretend like she was still asleep. But then she would flick her tail. It's like, I know you're awake. Flick. You can't ignore me forever. Okay, maybe she'll get up then. And come over and say hi. So she's just such a sweetie. She always had to be involved in whatever I was doing. And at the time, I was trying to do my homework on the computer, and she was one of those classic cats who would go over and try to step on your keyboard while you're trying to write your essay, and you're like, no, don't do it. Who knows, maybe if I'd let her step on my keyboard, then I would have got better grades on my essays. Just put in some perfect cat knowledge there. Their eternal wisdom. There we are. I like that little ball at the fluff of the... Oh, I just love that. The little poof. Okay. Going along there. And actually right here is where a shadow would be again. So I'm going to go ahead and thicken up that section. Oh, Doodlebug's snoring now. Okay. There we go. And let's turn off our sketch and bam. There it is. Look at that. Oh, I'm so happy. All right. And this gal is going to get some whiskers. I don't always put in the whiskers because sometimes on like this pose back here that we did earlier, the whiskers would actually, oops, I'm on the wrong layer. The whiskers would actually cover up those, cross over the legs and cross over the tail, technically. So I don't do them if they're going to be complicated because, again, this is an artist rendition. Technically, all cats have whiskers, but not all of them need them in the picture. Okay, so in this case, she's happy, so I'm going to put her whiskers pointing upwards a little bit. Oop, that's a little too long. And use the same principle, thick to thin, on that. Yeah. Actually, I'm going to change this one. Bring it in a little bit. There we go. That's better. And again, I'm actually starting them outside of the face because I could start them right here. But again, you can see they kind of cross over everything and make for messy lines. So I like to interpret it a little differently. And in this case, she's going to have some long whiskers on this side. Because she's like they do. She says, yes, what do you have to say? There you go. All right, so I'm liking this gal. So what kind of color should she have? I like tabby. Let's go with a tabby. Okay. I'm going to have to think about tabby. Let's see. Maybe we'll even... Yeah. So she's going to be... In my imagination, she's an orange tabby. But because this is a coloring book, y'all can color her however you feel like it. But I'm just going to put in some reference lines. So let's do... Actually, you know what? This is going to be more complicated. So I'm going to make a new layer just in case I don't like it, because then it's easier to erase later. I won't be erasing my lines. I am on it? Yes, I am. Okay. So this gal, let's see. Let's do some nose differences. She'll have like so. And this will actually represent a little bit like eyebrows there. Oops, a little bit too. Does the hair go that direction? Yeah, it does. All right. That's another thing. You want to make sure your hair is always traveling where you're pointing it. You know, you don't want to have hair like this when clearly the hair gets like this. You don't want to do that. So wherever you're doing, make sure that you're lining up with yourself. Okay. Yeah, I like that. So let's do a couple of small lines. Small stripes. Like so. And this will actually add some kind of drama and attitude to her already expressive face, because all the lines now are pointing up. So it's really like, what's going on? Like she's really thinking about stuff. So, okay, let's do we want to do her belly and chest with a lighter color? Sure, let's do that. All right, so she's going to have actually like a shape like that because her neck is twisted there. And then we can do... oh dear, that's terrible. All right, zoom back in. Here we go. We don't have to be crazy about this. Let's just do... So her little cheeks are going to be their own color. And... something... not like that. Nope. All right, let's actually change this one here. Again, right there. I'm not going to be erasing the wrong lines. Ha 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 ha. Because I'm a smarty. Okay. Sometimes you learn the hard way to plan ahead, that's for sure. It definitely took me quite a while to get used to that. No, I don't like that. Let's see. Ooh, I know what I'm gonna do. She's gonna have kind of a bald chin like this. Yeah, maybe. And then maybe it wraps under. No. You know, see? Hey, you guys are getting a first glance look at what it's like to draw in, my head. Sometimes you're like, oh, it's perfect. And then you try it and you're like, oh, it's terrible. It just takes some time usually. Some practice and all that. And oh, I like her. I like that, actually. That looks nice. Maybe I know what we'll do. 'Cause I'm smart. I'm not actually that smart. Okay, I know what we're going to do. We're not going to connect it to the chin because this pose does not yield to that nicely. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this line here. I'm going to use that as the beginnings of it, but then it will continue up and still lead in that direction because she's technically twisted there. And then it'll lead down into there. So I'm going to erase that one and this one. Yeah. That's nice. That's good enough. All right. And then we'll do, let's see, where's this? So it's like this. Yeah. So we'll come out about right there. And floof, a big floof. And it'll connect. That's a little too straight. It'll connect right here to her. Technically, that's the hip, I suppose. But it'll connect right there. There we go. She's looking like a fluff, people. This is working. All right, I'm going to then bring it out on her leg. Should we bring it up a little further? I think so. So let's actually... Yeah, let's do it like something like that. There we go. It's a little bit pointy. Let's change that. Let's make it more rounded. There we go. That's better. That's better. All right, and most tabbies have a tip of their tail be another color. There we are. All right, and she is gonna have, let's see, and this will actually, no, it needs to be further back. There we go. So as I'm doing this, I'm thinking about where the pieces of her body are that I can't actually see. So like right here, this is her leg coming back, and then it connects probably about right there. Oops. Connects about right there to the actual other leg, where technically her hip is up here, but the bottom where the hair is and all that is right about down there. So right about there is a good spot to end the floof. All right, so now it's time to add in quite a lot more stripes. Here we go. Are you all ready for this? I think so. I think I'm ready for this. There we go. Kind of like Tigger, but, a lot more complicated. And we'll give her some really big stripes. Yeah, I like that. Yep, and again, I'm literally creating arrows right now that are pointing you to her face, like so. and here and here. Yeah. So this is, as far as composition goes, this helps to clarify what is the most important thing on the picture. So even though this is for a coloring book, I still like to practice my composition and getting all that stuff down, you know? I have always loved drawing animals. They are definitely my forte, that's for sure. I just get the quadruped so much easier than I do the biped of humanity. They're just a different beast altogether, that's for sure. Okay, so now the hair is traveling this way, but the stripes are going to be going this way because many tabbies have their stripes going down. So I'm going to go ahead and do it that way. So I'm going to start actually right here in kind of the middle of the back and make a nice big one because I want to make sure I have in mind where the biggest stripe is, and then I can complement it with the other stripes and where they're coming from. Yeah, I like that. And then it's just a matter of the pattern. And you can do little ones in between the big ones. Oops, that one went over the edge. There we go. Yeah, I'm liking that. That looks nice. And in this case, I am changing up my pattern a little, that my hair is clearly going this way and I am drawing it this way. And that's up for your own interpretation, how you want to break your own rule. But, you know, they always say to know the rules before you break them, and then you can break them efficiently. And in this case, I have decided to break my own rule, because if I didn't do it that way, then my stripe would actually be more like this in how it looks. And it's kind of difficult to get like a pointy end to that when you do it that way. So in this case, to simplify things for myself, I've actually decided to do it more like this. Oh dear. All right, yeah, I like that, breaking it up with a little skinny one and then a big one. That kind of, oops, it's a little too angled. There we go. It makes me have to draw less stripes, but it also breaks up the pattern a little, so it isn't exactly the same the whole time. Oh, look at her chest. Oh, I love it. Okay, now on the leg, as you know, if you've ever seen a tabby, their stripes go this way on the leg. So in this case, we're going to switch from doing this way to this way. All right. Here we go. And I'm actually going to let it go off the page, off the piece that we can see anyway, because her leg is smushed under her and kind of rounded. Let's move that over a little bit. Undo is one of the most helpful things when you're doing digital art, especially. And it's just so nice to be able to just be like, whoops, that was wrong, and then you move it. There are definitely times in my life when I started drawing digitally where I literally started trying to imagine myself hitting Control-Z before I realized what I was doing, and then I would laugh at myself. And I kind of cured myself of that when I switched to doing the iPad, because they don't have Control-Z, except that now I look to my left, because that's where my, you know, it's right there. And it's just a funny pattern that I find myself doing, that when I, you know, put something down and I'm like, oh, that's the wrong spot to put that, then I immediately visualize myself hitting that button, and yet then laugh at myself because I can't hit that button. It doesn't exist, you silly. And that's what I say to myself. You know, that's just some of my inner monologue going on there. So, there you go. You are now informed. There we go. And I'm going to make her stripes get littler and littler as they reach the end of her foot there, because then she still has them, but they're just very small. Let's go ahead and do one right there, and one right here that'll actually be just its own little stripe. No, that's a little too much. That's too much in that area. There's already a lot of complicated stuff going on there. I think we're going to leave it, because I know I'm going to put this tail in. It's going to have its own pattern, so for the sake of simplifying, let's go ahead and we're going to do, yeah, I'm going to do like this. We're just going to make one giant stripe to start this off, because, yeah, let's just leave it one giant stripe right there at the back. And whoever's going to be coloring this later can interpret that however they want. All right. And let's just do... One of the awesome things about drawing fur is that you really can be quite random, and it'll still look right. Just follow, essentially keep track of where your hair is pointing, and also not doing exactly the same pattern every time. And then once you have that down, then you're kind of scot-free. You can kind of do whatever you want. Yeah, I like that. All right, and in this case, the fur is now changing direction a little, and then, oops, there we go. I like that. I like that. All right, now it's time for her front feet and her shoulders here. So this is actually going to continue the pattern. So we're on, what are we on? Skinny stripe. That's what we're doing. There we go. Now a thick one. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. That's not right. There we go. So my little nephew would tell me, that's not right, try again. There we go, yeah. Sometimes we just have to remind ourselves of that. It's okay, try again. Because we can get really critical of ourselves, you know? I know I can. And it's just a good reminder sometimes from a 6-year-old, or however old he was at the time. I think he was 3. But he learned it off of his toys that would tell him, that's okay, try again. And it's just one of the most awesome things when you hear a child being so kind to himself and just really encouraging himself to give it another shot, you know? It's amazing how fast we can sometimes lose track of that. There we go. I like that. I like that. And this will also, this swoop line will help represent that the chin is turned like so. All right, she's looking sassy. Now let's do the front leg, which is going to be the same as the back legs. Here, she's going to have her stripes going this way. All right, so it'll change the pattern a little. Whenever you have a direction change like that, you want to make sure you know what you're doing with yourself, because it can get really complicated really fast. In this case, she just has a change of pattern there. And it's okay too to have empty space, especially on a pattern like this. So it's alright that I don't fill in this space with more stripes, you know? And so this space doesn't have to have anything in it. It doesn't have to have a stripe or a pattern. It's just empty space. So if you color her gray with black stripes, that's just gray, you know? Or if it's orange, that's the light orange, and the dark orange is going to be the stripes. Or whatever you do, you can color her however you want. Because you could actually color her, you know, green with bright neon pink stripes if you felt like it. I wouldn't stop you. There we go. Oh, actually, that's a little too angled up. I want that to angle down more because of the direction her leg is actually pointed. There we go. Yeah. And then this one will also angle down. And then again, we're going to get real small here at the base. So she still has a stripe, but it's very little. Oh, that bottom one doesn't have to be there. It's okay. All right. And then over here, we'll have just a little bit of stripe. Not too much, because this is mostly the inside of the leg. So we're just going to have, oops, like so. Yeah, I like that. So here I can get a little bit bigger. Oop, there's a tangent right there. I don't want my stripe to line up with that because then it looks like the same. See? Whoops. Avoid that guy. I don't know why it's called a tangent, but it is. It's one of the things that my high school teacher hammered into my brain. Don't make the tangent happen. Yep, alright. And here, you can kind of straddle that line so it doesn't line up, but it's okay. There you go. Alright. Look at her. Oh my gosh. I want to hold this cat. It's official. Okay. There she is. Alright, and I think we'll call it there today. So thank you all for joining me, and be sure to like the video and subscribe if you enjoyed watching. And go ahead and leave in the comments what you would like to see next. You know, I'm just over here drawing stuff, so anything you want to see, go ahead and put it in the comments. And if you have any questions about how I did everything I did today, I think I explained most of it, but you know, there's always things to learn, and so don't be shy in posting your questions. All right, I am gonna head out, and I will see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching.